This is your Barbados Today Evening News Update for Tuesday, August 20th. Thanks for joining us. I'm Fernella Wedderburn. Relief is on the way for residents of parts of St. Michael and St. James affected by outages or, in some cases, low water pressure today. This evening, the Barbados Water Authority reported that it had completed repairs to a damaged 18-inch main in Freehill Black Rock that caused the disruption. The authority, however, noted that while water is flowing through the main, it will take some time for levels at the Lodge Hill Reservoir to increase and allow for pumping to resume from the St. Stephen's pumping station. In the interim, the Water Authority said tankers will be provided to assist affected residents. In other news, key players in the local financial services sector are upbeat about the island's economic performance, but there's no mistaking the impact on their operations of their prolonged economic slowdown. During a discussion hosted by the Central Bank of Barbados on the 2018 Financial Stability Report, Anthony Pilgrim of the Barbados Cooperative and Credit Union League disclosed that while credit unions have held their own and even recorded growth, there has been an increase in customers not paying their loans.
As finance institutions really have to work much harder as it relates to how we manage our loan book. Writing quality business, and we also need to be appropriately aggressive as it relates to following up non-performing loans. And of course, sitting with our members and helping them to work through these difficult situations, to restructure loans, etc., as necessary. But definitely that's one of the big impacts, the spike in non-performing loans. And we in the credit union sector, and I know the banking sector and the finance companies would also probably experience this. There has been somewhat of an increase in NPLs from, I think, from 7.5% to about 8.9%. And we need obviously going forward to work much harder as a sector to make sure that metric does not get out of line.
President of the Barbados Bankers Association, Donna Wellington, says non-performing loans are not an issue for banks at this stage. She noted it was a major concern when the recession hit home in 2008, but there has been major improvement.
We're now seeing them come down again because we have worked through a lot of the challenge that we had with those non-performing loans. Certainly, the large ones, commercial non-performing loans, were higher at that time. There were hotels that were challenged. There were all sorts of businesses that were challenged. But we have seen a regularization of most of that. And so when we do see little spikes now, it would be because of individuals, because of unemployment and so on. But we are working very hard with those individuals, and we try to lead that off pretty quickly in order to make sure that we don't see those spikes again.
Meanwhile, the insurance sector continues to feel the impact of the slowdown, and Chief Operating Officer and General Manager of Sagicor, Edward Clark, says the sector is more competitive.
In the insurance industry, we've seen the negative impact on some companies, new business premiums and so on. We've seen the impact on the general insurance side as well, where competition has basically, market rates have gone down in order to gain business share, market share. Not a good move, because it has impacted profitability across the companies and will impact the viability of some companies if they continue in that vein. On the life side, the new business fell in 2018. There's no doubt about it. This year is looking a bit better.
A lifetime of potential snuffed away because of drugs. That's how relatives remembered Gordon Best, a well-known strict character, today at an hour-long funeral service at the Abundant Life Assembly. Dozens listened to touching tributes in honor of a vagrant who captured the attention of many in Bridgetown. His nephew, Trevor Best, urged Barbadians to pay more attention to mental health and drug abuse.
Mental health and drug addiction continues to plague our society and threatens to erode great minds that would otherwise be a positive influence and contributor to an aiding society. Let us not turn our backs on our afflicted, but keep them close. shield them and put forth all efforts to get them help and help for their families to understand how to deal with the challenge. Let my uncle's legacy be the impotence that caused us to further raise our awareness on mental health issues and drug abuse, and spur the introduction of additional measures being allocated to assist. We have started the charge by today we will be collecting a special offering in his honor, which will go to the Barbados Vagrants and Homeless Society. This, ladies and gentlemen, is but a small token to lead the charge. Let it not stop there, as we encourage you to continue to do your part in assisting the afflicted and the less fortunate.
In sports, West Indies captain Jason Holder has retained his all-rounder top ranking ahead of Thursday's start of the two-test series against India in Antigua. The 27-year-old Barbadian topped the all-rounders charts in tests back in January, following his stunning double hundred in the first test against England at Bridgetown that propelled the home side to a massive 381-run victory. Holder also picked up 2 wickets in the match to move up 2 places to the top rung. He will lead West Indies in the opening test at the Vivian Richards Stadium, where he will look to further solidify his status in the rankings. Holder is also the highest ranked West Indian in the bowling charts at number 8, having retained that spot, while fellow bowler Kemar Roach has also retained his 11th place ranking.
There's regional and international news after this short break.
Barbados Today, news you can trust.
To regional news, another year, the same problems. That's the early complaint from the Jamaica Teachers Association ahead of the start of the new school year on September 2nd. New president of JTA, Owen Speed, has been highlighting the water woes plaguing the school as a result of prevailing drought conditions.
Owen Speed officially assumed his new role as Jamaica Teachers Association JTA president on Monday night. But his tone on issues affecting education was the same as before.
We should make educational matters public. I will never be afraid to let the cat out of the bag.
Among the matters he wished to make public, the crippling water shortage that gripped parts of the education sector leading up to the summer break. As the principal of a corporate area school, he knows the problem personally and said Rousseau Primary, like many others, had no water even up to this week. He says very little has been done to address the water crisis in schools ahead of the new school term and predicts further disruptions.
I am afraid that come September 2, the schools in the corporate area will have the same issues that they had last year when we had to close school half days some of the times because there was no water in the pipe. There is a call also from the independent schools that they need help in terms of trucking of water into their institutions.
And on the international scene, a man who took a bus and 37 passengers hostage on a bridge in the Brazilian city of Rio de Janeiro was shot dead by a police sniper today. The hostage taker, who identified himself as a military policeman, was armed and threatened to set the bus on fire with gasoline. More in this report from the CNN.
A hijacker, basically with more than 30 passengers on board, forced this bus over, has been holding passengers on board. He did release 6 passengers at one point, but what we just saw is that when he stepped off the bus, local journalists heard 6 shots. It appears that police shot him in the leg, and the hope is that this really does bring an end to the standoff. But again, with still roughly 31 hostages aboard, we have to see how this plays out from here going forward. It still isn't known what the motives of this kidnapper were. It isn't known really what he was hoping to get out of it. He said he was going to try and light the bus on fire. The bus was headed from this neighboring city of Niterói to Rio. A major thoroughfare cutting across the bay has been cut off, paralyzing the city. So you can imagine everyone is glued to their phone or their TV trying to figure out what's going on and to see how this will end.
And that's news, but for the very latest, visit us at www.barbadostoday.bb. You can also subscribe to our e-paper email updates or like us on Facebook and sign up for our breaking news alerts via WhatsApp. We're also on Izumi Media and bus terminals, as well as screenplay at supermarkets and gas stations near you. And you can also hear us on Mix 96.9 FM and Capital Media HD 99.3 FM. I'm Fernella Wedderburn. Good evening.